welcome back to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon Register, and every week we bring you news and information you can use on your next real estate transaction. And one of the most important things to buyers who are moving to the Houston area is the school districts. So we're talking all about school districts today. We were interviewing a couple of superintendents and some board members, and really, it's interesting. There's so many things that if you're not in education, you don't know the nuances of it. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today. We're going to start with Dr. Dupre from Fort Bend ISD, which is a big school district. So welcome to the show.
Hi, Shannon. Good to be here.
So you are in really one of the biggest school districts, right?
Yes, we're the 7th largest in the state of Texas and about the 50th largest in the nation. We're about to break 75,000 students in our district.
That's a lot of kids. I don't know how you keep up with all that.
It takes a lot of people and a lot of time, but it's a gift.
Yeah. How many schools do y'all have?
We have about 75 schools right now, and we actually have 4 under construction.
And will they open next school year?
We're planning to open 3 new elementaries next year and a middle school the year after that.
Okay. And you guys, did y'all open any brand new schools this school year?
We did.
Okay.
We opened Ann Sullivan Elementary School.
Okay. Good.
And it's a large school for our community. It's in the Riverstone neighborhood, and that community indicated they would rather have one large school over multiple smaller schools.
Okay.
So it opened this year, and Ann Sullivan is actually a Fort Bend ISD graduate. And she was a firefighter who died in a fire in 2013 at about age 24. And she is just a local hero, and we're so proud of her. Her mother works in our district, and she's one of our own, so it's really neat. The children love their mascot, the Dalmatians. Aww. The new school is beautiful, and it's just a great learning environment with a good focus for a young woman from like I said, from our community that the kids love celebrating.
You know, the new schools, when you go into the new schools, they're very different looking than the old schools. You know, the old schools were very white, very brick, or, in the inside it was like the painted white brick. It just had a real clean feel, almost medical looking, and the schools don't look much like that anymore. They're much more soft, friendly, more color. They have a better feel, much better feel.
They do. That's what I was going to say. Lots of color. We've realized we need to engage children in their learning environment.
Yeah.
One thing that is really cool in Fort Bend is last year our board approved new educational specifications. And that sounds like an educational term, but really all it means is they approved kind of the design standards for our buildings.
Okay.
That they detail out how we're going to design our buildings to engage the needs of the 21st century learners.
Oh, cool.
Because, today's children, they're highly engaged in technology.
Yeah.
They have access to a lot more data than I know I did when I was in school. And so it's neat. We're doing open spaces, what we call maker spaces, to allow students creativity, to allow them to play, to explore in learning more than sitting in rows, as you may remember sitting in school.
They're much more hands-on.
Yes.
Much more hands-on in learning. And I think that's good. I think it used to be kind of like these students were hands-on, but most of them aren't. And now it's kind of like everybody's really hands-on. Maybe not as much as others, but everybody's kind of, you just learn well when you can put your hands on it and explore it and figure it out. I just think it helps wrap your brain around it.
That's right. We call it exploration and investigative learning. We also talk a lot about relevance and the need of making things relevant to students. And so the idea that when you can see it and touch it, it's not just reading about it and being told about it. You can really play with it and explore it. It just helps the learning really take place more deeply.
So for buyers who are moving into the Houston area, what is the draw to Fort Bend? Because you guys have a lot of master plan communities, you have a lot of schools, and you service a lot of students. And even though you're so big and service so many, you're known, you're just known all over as a great school district. So how do you keep that greatness even though you're so big, and how do you project that to all the people that are moving this direction?
Well, I'll tell you what draws people to Fort Bend, and it's a lot of things. First of all, just as a realtor, location, location, location. We're accessible to the Energy Corridor, downtown, Galleria Medical Center, very few minutes drive to almost anywhere in the key employment centers in Houston.
Right.
All industries. But the thing I value most is the community values education. We have a rich, very vibrant diversity in our community. We're virtually 25% of all the 4 major categories, Asian, Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American. And so it's a very diverse community, but with that comes lots of people who invest in education. We have an education foundation that is stellar. There are organizations, nonprofits for everything from reading to dropout prevention, and they're all around supporting our schools and our students.
That's good.
So the community values education, and they move there for the location, but they also choose us because they value the education their kids are going to get.
That's really good. I know there are a lot of other superintendents in some other districts around that would love to have that, because not everybody has that. So
that's right. They're coming from all over the world. I was in a high school last week, and I met a student who had just moved here from India, and his brother had come here for graduate school, but said he had done his research, and Fort Bend ISD was where he wanted to bring his family. So he was enrolling his 17-year-old brother with the mom sitting there to finish high school in Fort Bend ISD.
What are some of the issues that a big school district like yours has versus a small school district?
Well, frankly, with so many schools and so many students, equity is critical because in our district, because of the diversity, we have some homes that still don't have running waters, while we also have homes that exceed $12 million in value. And so just making sure that every single student has access to a high-quality education is the bottom line. So we've got to really tailor our educational services from school to school based on the unique communities.
Right.
And that's one of our greatest challenges.
That's one of the things I like about the master plan communities, having schools in them. You know who your students are, in that community. They're all very similar. They have different learning needs, but they're very similar in a lot of ways. So it's not so diverse as when you're out in like Montgomery, where I live. You've got people, all over the place that are just from completely different backgrounds. I mean, there's some people who are farming and then other people who are business. It's very different.
So. It is. That's one thing I like. Our school board in Fort Bend is outstanding. And I know you're talking to a board member today from another district that the governance that they provide is critical. And in our community, they've adopted policy that says all students will achieve their full potential. And so what that means to me as the CEO, the superintendent, is I've got to work with those principals, with those teachers at every single school to make sure they have the financial resources, the human resources, all the things they need to meet the unique needs of the students in that particular school.
What do you think the issues are for educators today that people at home may not even be thinking about? I mean, there are a lot of people who hadn't been in a school in years and years and years. They may go for Grandparents' Day or, but, they're kind of out of touch with the school. And then you have people graduating college who are going into a school to be a teacher, and it's very different than when they were in elementary school.
Yes.
So what are those issues that are really facing educators today that the people at home wouldn't, may not even be aware of?
That's a good question, because many people, they say, I went to school, so I know what school is like. But I think one of the key issues people don't really have an appreciation for is all of the mandates that come from the state and federal government around education, all of the testing and all the expectations that come that are law that we have to apply.
Yeah.
And so if I think of teachers that are coming out of college or people who don't have kids in school yet, they don't really have an appreciation for all that teachers have to do. We think of teachers standing up and teaching, but it's not just teaching anymore. There's all kinds of paperwork, documentation.
Yeah.
You have to teach all different kinds of group based on the students' unique needs, and we're held accountable for that. And of course, we want to serve the students, but often those burdens that come from outside of our local system create lots of extra work and lots of just issues in the school. It also relates to funding. Now I can flip to the other side of your question, though. We think about our students today. Our students are very different than they used to be. They're, as I mentioned earlier, they're engaged in technology. They have access to information. They're literate in many ways before they even walk in the doors of our schools.
Right.
And so we've got to meet them where they are and take them where they can go.
Well, that sounds good. So, okay, here's a question for you. How's your football team going to go this year?
I've got 11 football teams, and 9 of them won their first game last week.
That's exciting.
And it's going to be a great season at Fort Bend ISD.
Very good. You'd hate to be at the two schools that didn't win, right?
I know, but they're going to make it up this week.
Very good. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in from Fort Bend. Dr. Dupre, hope you have a great school year. I know you got a lot of kids to service out there in Fort Bend County. So we appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to us. And, I know you guys are going to just keep servicing many, many more students that are going to keep moving your way because it's such a great area of town.
We are growing, and thank you for having me, Shannon.
All right, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors here on Houston Real Estate Radio. And if you've got a question, you can always call into the show at 844-788-9444. And if you missed any of today's show, catch us online at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
People often find themselves in need of storage and moving, but don't want the hassle and stress. Sound familiar? Well, at Zippy Shell, we make storage and moving easy. Zippy Shell will deliver a storage container to your home or business. You load it at your leisure, and we'll take it to one of our safe, convenient storage facilities. Or ship it to your final destination. We treat your stuff like it's our stuff, because we understand you're not just giving us your belongings, you're giving us your trust. Zippy Shell. Storage and moving that makes life simple.